Okay, hello YouTube, and today I'm going to analyze one of my wins from about a year ago. It was a game I played against Grandmaster Lev Gutman. He's a Grandmaster from Germany. And I'm just going to kind of show you some of the ideas and show you kind of how I thought through this game. It was just a blitz game, played online, so no heavy stakes involved or anything like that. And actually, my blitz rating is a little bit higher than Lev's, so I'm actually kind of expected to win this game. And I believe my blitz record against Lev, I have a slightly better blitz record against Lev Gutman in the games that we have played online. So going into this game, it starts out as an open Sicilian. So e4, c5, knight f3, g6, d4, cd4, knight d4, knight f6, knight c3. We have a standard open Sicilian. A6, bishop c4, we have the Fischer-Sozin variation. And then Lev plays kind of this weird move. He plays bishop g4. And as you can see, I've drawn a lot of arrows here. And that's why it's bad. It's because all the arrows are just really dangerous and they're really scary and they're going to... No, that's not the reason. But bishop g4 is weird because it's a pretty normal strategy to play something like g4, g5. So like even if they play something like e6, for example, it's a pretty normal strategy to play something like bishop e3, queen e2, castles queenside, and then eventually rook hg1, and then g4, g5. It's you can have a Velimirovic attack go like this. Like with e6 and knight c6, we could transpose into a Velimirovic, and g4, g5 is a normal strategy. So bishop g4 is strange because it's basically trying to get me to play f3, and f3 fits in with this plan pretty well. So when I play f3, I'm getting a free move on playing g4, g5. I don't have to necessarily prep g4 or g5 anymore with the move rook g1. I can just go ahead and play g4 straight away. So this is actually kind of a favorable inclusion. So it's strange to force me to make this favorable inclusion. But I've seen strong titled players kind of do this type of thing before, where they just want to change the plan and the position, even if the evaluation isn't necessarily all that great for them. They just want to kind of quiz their opponent on whether or not they know the other plan. Because sometimes in the Fischer-Sozin, there's players that only know the plan with like bishop b3 and then say f4, f5. So here you're quizzing them, do you know this other plan? Basically, do you know the plan involving g4, g5? But g4, g5 for me, it's a pretty obvious plan. It's one of the initial plans that kind of Fischer had when he started playing the Fischer-Sozin, was just kind of pile up and try to control that d5 square, and g4, g5 is very natural. So then we have bishop e3, e6, queen e2. So I'm kind of following through with this basic plan. It says queen e2 is a mistake, but it still follows along with this basic plan of playing g4, g5. Interestingly enough, like what the computer kind of wanted to do was just play g4, g5, just straight away. It says was a little bit better. But the evaluation still says slight edge white after queen e2. So queen e2, knight c6, and then we go ahead and castle queenside. Still the evaluation is giving slight edge white. We have queen c7. I kind of correct everything now. I have bishop b3 in. We're back to a nice, comfortable slight edge for white, and my intention is to play g4, g5. So we have b5, g4. Says g4 is an inaccuracy, but the assessment doesn't go down very much. It kind of wanted to play a3, but on infinite analysis, it gives the same assessment for a3 as it does g4. Actually, if you let it run a little, depending on how long you let it run, sometimes g4 is a better move than a3. So g4 was fine. And then we have knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, and then we have this move bishop to c6. And now here's kind of interesting. I saw the right idea, but I didn't see the right execution. Like, I saw this idea with knight to d5, and it's, in fact, the correct idea, but I thought it was stronger to take on f6 first. So I thought it was stronger to play bishop f6, gf6, and then knight d5, which is what I played in the game. I had this opportunity to just play knight d5 right away, and I think what was interesting was I was kind of worried, what do I do if black does nothing? So the issue is black doesn't have a great nothing move, and I didn't see that right away. So I thought like maybe black could just like waste a move like queen d8, but there isn't really a great move to waste. Like if you're gonna waste a move or just do nothing, you have to move the queen, and you have to move the queen to a square that defends the knight. So d8's kind of the only square. Otherwise, you're just hanging this pawn. Like just knight f6, gf6, bishop f6 is, of course, very strong. So like, but if queen d8, like you're basically losing after just bishop b6. So like just bishop b6, queen b8 or c8 or whatever, and then just simply this knight is coming to c7. And picking up an exchange for nothing is usually a good thing. So the assessment's very high. So I just kind of had it in my head like, well, I don't know what to do if he doesn't take it or if he does nothing. But, I mean, it's a quick calculation. I should have been able to calculate queen d8, bishop b6, because that's the only nothing move in the position. So kind of a miss for me, but it was a blitz game. So kind of silly for me to get too upset about it. I did see the sacrifice, just slightly wrong order. The computer still says advantage white, so I'm still doing quite well. So then he plays queen d8, which he says it's a miss. Like bishop d5 is better. He just needs to kind of kill my pieces, but he just is trying to defend everything, which makes perfect sense. And then I play apparently a brilliant move, king b1. And this is one of the few times where maybe I agree with the computer. Like usually when my computer says my move is brilliant, I don't agree with it. But I think it's actually very difficult to find a quiet move in a position where your knight is hanging and you're attacking. I think the instincts of most people are to find another attacking move. So in this case, just moving my king over and saying, okay, you can't take anything, what are you going to do, is I kind of see it, because it also it happens to be the best move, and it's, I don't know, it's pretty good, but brilliant. I never it's high praise, for maybe just I couldn't think of anything better to do, so I played King B1, so maybe a little bit too much praise. So he moves his bishop back to D7, and then I played the knight back to F4. So my idea is, to wheel the knight around, also put some pressure on E6. There's possible threats of bishop E6, so making progress, just continuing to find ways to make progress. So he plays queen D7, and of course I love this idea, just wheeling the knight around, threatening knight F6 check, threatening a fork, and as you can see right now, the evaluation is starting to climb for white. White has some very beautiful pieces here, and we're preventing black from kind of getting out of his mess. He's very cramped, he doesn't have a safe place to put his king, and this position is getting more and more uncomfortable. So queen to e7, and then I play queen to e3, which was good, but c4 was best. I think they're both good. We have rook to c8, and then I have queen to f4, basically just putting pressure on the f6 square, just threatening knight takes or something takes on f6, and I didn't see a defense. And he didn't see a great defense either, which is why he played his next move. He played pawn to f5, just trying to prevent the knight from hitting him to f6. But of course, this allows me to decisively open the position. So we just have e takes f5, e5, I guess just trying desperately to close the position up. Of course, if you recapture, just, rook e1, and this is hopeless. So now queen back to e3, rook c5, f6, queen to c7, rook d3, and then I just go for a strategy of doubling, and all my pieces are beautifully placed, and it's very difficult for him to finish his development, with all my beautifully placed pieces. So he just plays his queen back to d6, just trying to hold it all together. I continue with knight g3, just trying to maneuver my knight to an even stronger central square. On f5, already the computer's giving me like plus 5.42. It's hard to tell, like when you're playing the game, that your advantage is that big, because you do see black's big center, and you're like, how am I going to break through? But just the fact that his king is stuck in the middle, and he can never move these two pieces, is kind of a big deal. And I did eventually find the absolute correct way to break through. So h5, I played knight to f5, hitting the queen. And then I found the correct idea, which it gave me a brilliant, which maybe is a little justified. I knew that I had to do this and this in some order, and this time I did it in the right order. So I played bishop takes d5, which was absolutely the right order. And of course the idea is that when I play knight g7 check, he has to take because his queen is attacked, and I am threatening to play queen takes rook, and then when I play queen takes rook, I'm x-raying for a mate threat. So it's really hard to defend absolutely everything. So takes, I'm double attacking. I have an attack on a rook. For some reason, my whole chess career, double attacks that are separate on the board have always been easy for me to see. So like when I'm attacking a rook on one side of the board and attacking a rook on the other side of the board, I've always done well with tactics like this. I used to have a friend of mine, he called them floating pieces tactics. I was always very good at finding tactics where the pieces were just kind of floating. So I play fg7, we have rook g8, I take on c5, and he resigns, the game is over. And yeah, it's basically, he's toast, because as soon as he moves this bishop, this is mate. So that was the whole reason of playing bishop d5 first, was coaxing the bishop to that square. And of course, playing bishop a2 check doesn't really help the situation, because mate is still the threat, and it's all you can do to block it is just put the bishop in the way and just hope that it comes one move later. So like bishop d5, rook takes, and rook d8 is of course still on the table. So anyways, that was how I won that game. It was kind of your classic kind of open Sicilian game where white got in kind of this early g4, g5, got in an early sacrifice on the d5 square. I managed to keep him from ever coordinating his pieces. I managed to keep him from developing his king side, and I was eventually able to break through the middle and win. And this happens quite a bit, and I think this was a good game that kind of demonstrated that. And overall I played very well. Like I didn't have there weren't a whole lot of mistakes. Like even like major or minor technique issues weren't pretty terrible. So this is one of those games that when you play it, you can kind of remember it, and then you just kind of try to repeat it or get something close to repeating it. I guess if I had that exact position again, I would play knight d5 instead of bishop f6. That was the one thing that I can kind of get mad at myself for, was missing that great shot right away with just knight d5 instead of bishop f6, which just would have been kind of crushing on the spot. So anyways, I hope you learned something new about chess. I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you very much for watching.